the Opubco Studios in Oklahoma City, this is the Press Row. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Barry Trammell, and we are brought to you by Papa John's Pizza. Go online right now and order your pizza at papajohns.com. Let's start with our 5 and 5 segment, Barry. We've got 5 topics, about a minute each. Let's get right to it with this one. What's a takeaway from the Stevie Clark saga? Obviously booted from the Oklahoma State team earlier this year after his 3rd problem.
Well, I mean, I don't know that you can paint with a broad brush on the Stevie Clark story. It's very sad for OSU, very sad for Stevie that he struck out 3 strikes that quickly. But, you know, when you see a guy who is a little bit unstable in high school, and by unstable, you know, the saga of going to Las Vegas for 2 or 3 weeks, then coming back, you see that a lot with guys jumping around. It works for some. Kevin Durant, you know, switched high schools in when he was a kid, but it shows a little bit of instability, and I think it's a problem. And I think college coaches have a more difficult time than ever figuring out who's stable and who's not, who can handle this kind of thing. Stevie Clark obviously not ready to handle much discipline, not ready to handle much structure. And now he's going to have to start over.
Yeah, and it is sad. You mentioned that. It is sad that Stevie Clark, you know, such a promising player in high school, 4-time state champion at Douglas, player of the year. I mean, he goes from that high to now being without a basketball team to play on. Where will he land? What will he do? I think that to me is sort of the unknown. It's not, we don't know. We can't say this is the takeaway. I think this is the final chapters have yet to still be written. Will he stay in school so he can transfer and be in a good academic standing once the spring is over? You know, that's obviously going to be tough because if he was sort of acting rudderless with the basketball team's influence, is he now going to be able to handle it on his own? I mean, I don't know. I think a lot is yet to be determined. Can this guy get his career, and in a lot of ways his life, back on track? He's got a lot left to go if he'll figure out a way to do that. All right, what about this one, Barry? Speaking of Oklahoma State, are the Cowboys in NCAA jeopardy? Is there a possibility they may miss the tournament?
Well, now, I think the answer to the last question is yes. The answer to the first question is no. They're not in jeopardy yet, but they could get there. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to win. You got to, you know, if the Cowboys dip below 500, or they are below 500 in Big 12 play, if they stay there, I mean, they're in serious jeopardy. You don't want to go 8-10 in the Big 12. That might leave you out. And OSU's problem is they've had 5 home games out of 9 already, and they're below 500. So they've got some road games coming up. It's not going to be easy. I think OSU will make it. But this is a season that's a little bit on the brink.
Yeah, and I think in the Big 12 this year, I think a 500 Big 12 team can make the tournament. And I think with OSU's preseason or pre-conference resume, I think that will help them if they are at 500, because the Big 12 is just so tough. I mean, you really look at the top to bottom, I really think this is as deep a league as you'll find in the country. So if you go 500, I think you still got a good argument to make the NCAA tournament. But OSU's going to have to work. They go to Texas Tech this weekend. That looked like a really winnable game when the season started. Now Tubby Smith has them playing fantastically. We've talked before, is it time to panic at OSU? If they lose at Tech, I think you can start to panic a little bit because this season's starting to get away from them a bit. All right, Barry, what about this? Most boring Super Bowl ever? You saw it firsthand. I unfortunately sat through it on TV. Was this the most boring Super Bowl ever?
Well, it definitely was for me because I was there, and you're stuck. You know, if I'm at home watching, Joe Montana take apart the Broncos, you get up, go do something else. Go shovel snow, go make yourself a sandwich, whatever it might be. If you're at the game, you're sort of stuck, especially if you got to write about it. You can't walk away. So it was definitely the most boring Super Bowl for me. It was over early. It was over at halftime, and anybody that had any doubts, they were removed with the second half kickoff. It was totally one-sided. The second half was just a Seattle coronation.
Yeah, and I think while you say it was boring being there and having to stay there, was not much better watching it on TV. Commercials were not great, I didn't think. Obviously the game's not great, but here's why, in my mind, it ranks as the most boring. And I have to admit, I didn't see them all in my lifetime. There were Super Bowls before I was born, but this one was so expected to be a great matchup. You had that high-powered Bronco offense going against such a great Seattle defense. You just knew this was going to come down to the bitter, bitter end. And it was a bitter end, but it was because it was 43-8. Boring. Man, it ranks right up there. All right, Barry, what about this? Winter Olympics getting underway. What is the Winter Olympic sport that you would be good at?
The answer is none of them. I do no good on ice. I slipped on the ice this morning, slipped in my car driving last night. Keep me off the ice, but I will say this. If I had to do one, I think I would try the Nordic skiing, the cross-country skiing. I don't like going too fast on snow. I don't like going downhill on much of anything. Give me put the cross-country skis on me, and I'll just try to work my way through it. That would be about my only guess.
You don't want to go on the skeleton where you lay flat on your back and go down the ice?
Is that related to the luge?
Yes.
No, that does not sound good.
Not doing any of those?
No.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, if you do the Nordic combined, part of that is ski jumping. Now, you can do cross-country skiing without...
I don't want any combined.
Okay,
no,
all right.
No.
Straight.
Okay. Straight cross-country.
Well, I tell you, I actually tried curling.
I saw the video.
You can read about that. You can see me falling down. I really stunk at it, frankly, giving it my first try. But there are curlers in the Olympics who are not 19, 20, not super young, not, six-pack abs, although a lot of them are very, muscled and such. But I think if I given the time, might be able to pull that one off.
No reason why you couldn't.
I'm not going to be a ski jumper, though.
Lolo Jones made the Olympic team in the bobsled or whatever with like 4 practices.
She's a little faster than I am.
Well, maybe so.
All right, back to the 5 and 5 for our last one. Is Loud City too loud? Barry, Memphis coach Dave Jorger, earlier this week when the Grizzlies are in town, he's actively lobbying for the music to be turned down. He's pleading. Is the arena getting a rep maybe for being a little bit artificial?
Well, I guess so. If he's throwing it out there, I got to admit, when I'm at a Thunder game, I don't even notice the music. Maybe I'm too involved with the basketball. Maybe I'm working. Do you have a hearing problem
by any chance?
I don't. But literally, I don't. When I read that, I was not at that game. When I read it, I said, "They're playing music during the game." I don't. It doesn't even register with me. So I have to withdraw from this question. I didn't even know there was music while the ball's in play, much less that it's too loud.
I find that hard to believe. Can I just say?
I've tuned it out, I guess.
Apparently so, because when Darnell Mayberry, our Thunder beat writer, and I were watching Dave Jorger actively ask, please turn it down, we looked at each other and said, yes, we love this guy.
So it is too loud.
There are times during the game when it's almost unbearable.
I didn't think you could play music during the game while the ball's in play. Yeah, there ought to be rules against it.
I really can't believe you don't know that there's music going on.
I really didn't. I know they played it all the time in the breaks, but not during the game.
I feel like our bell has given way to the Gong Show all of a sudden. Hey, be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.